Hi, I'm Rick Reiff. Welcome to Socal Insider. The city of Los Angeles has a $200 million operating deficit and billions in unfunded pension costs. Bankruptcy, anyone? And is San Onofre going down the tubes? Literally. The feds say the tubes don't work right. Can they be fixed? We'll discuss both of those stories. But first, Rodney King. Dead at age 47, drowned, apparently accidentally, in his Rialto home swimming pool. A troubled man who became a powerful symbol of racial tension. His videotaped beating at the hands of LA cops and the cops' subsequent acquittals sparked the LA riots of 1992 and prompted sweeping police reforms. Joining me to discuss Rodney King and his legacy, his attorney, LA trial lawyer Milton and Watts native and president of the Black Chamber of Commerce of Orange County, Bobby McDonald. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And Bobby, I'd also thank you as a board member of PBS Socal TV, so thanks for your involvement in that. Milton, what do you make of Rodney King's life and his death?
That's a big question. He was part of an incident that turned into a global event that brought racism on the table, especially racism perpetrated by police officers in police brutality. In life, he was a young man who was not ready for being thrust into the limelight, and so he had many personal problems and demons that haunted him from before the beating. I don't know what effect the abuse by a drunken father, an abusive alcoholic, would have on a young person, but I can imagine it's terrible. And so we received that young man with mixed feelings. He didn't cause the LA riots, as you call it. I call it the LA civil disorder, because I think that people felt injustice had been perpetrated against a people by that verdict in Simi Valley, and there was a reaction to it towards not the government directly, but indirectly it was. It was a reaction to the pain that people felt. So from that civil disorder erupted some changes in the police department, in our society. I think that blacks, whites, and other races are able to deal with the issue of racism a lot better today than they were before this incident.
And Rodney talked about, his discomfort with the role that he was in. We just had the anniversary, the 20th anniversary of the LA riots. He was interviewed extensively. He just came out with his memoirs. Is it any coincidence, you think, that this happened at this time?
I'm hoping it's coincidence. I hope it wasn't anything other than that. Unfortunately, we've lost this young man who was trying to find his way still. I talked to him about 3 months ago, and he was sort of elated that his book was going to come out, and maybe that was going to be another turn in his life. His book was out, and hopefully that was going to be the turn in his life that put him on the right course that we would hope he would be on. But this young man had a lot of pain in him when he thought people were blaming him about the civil disorder that occurred in April of 1992. And that was the pain you saw when you heard him breaking down, saying, can't we all just get along? Because he had a script to read, and the script just wasn't appropriate. And he felt that pain. You can see that pain in him when he's breaking up, saying, can't we just all get along? And that is what we all work for. We work to get along with Bobby on my left, you on my right, with our families, with our wives, with our partners, with our enemies. That's what we work for, and that pain came out of him.
Okay. Well, we are going to watch one of the interviews Bobby gave, or that Rodney gave just before his death, and this was to TMZ.
It's almost 20 years after the incident. How do you feel race relations have come so far?
Came a long ways. Not a long ways, but it's just, you got to consider the history of our country. You know what I'm saying? How it was built and everything to go along with it. If that's what you're asking me, so relations, we always going to be working on relations in the country, but
There's always
for
been
the most of it, I'm not trying to downplay or anything, but things have gotten better.
That was Bobby. Kind of, it's poignant now to think this was just a week or so before his death. Again, that was a TMZ video. What do you think about that? Things have gotten better. What did the whole ordeal mean to you?
It became reflective for me. When you look at the city of Los Angeles and the way it was built and the way it came about after the war, it was still pretty much segregated. All right, it wasn't, but it was. And Kenny Hahn became that supervisor in Los Angeles that had that Watts area that's now called South Central, that whole area. And he went in and made some changes for the black community. And in fact, to that effect, which becomes reflective and part of my life, my grandfather was the first black department head for the county of Los Angeles, appointed by Kenny Hahn. So he did those kinds of things to help the community. In August of '65, we had the riots because basically
those were known as the Watts riots.
The Watts riots. We had the Watts riots because people were looking for different things at that time from an economic standpoint, and it just didn't work. It wasn't working, and people got upset. And plus, that was a Marquette Fry piece where he got pulled over by the policeman, and the riots started from there. Then we had the Olympics in between there, and the economic situation was supposed to get better, and it didn't. And that's why in the Dave Nazar piece, it mentions that he spoke to different people about how, and Uberoff, about how to make the economy better and do some things. But the energy wasn't there to rebuild LA as it was for the other piece. But as I finish, the fact that you have a gentleman that's on TV, videotaped, being beat, and then you have the cops or the policemen being acquitted because they didn't do anything, that really can spark some really, really nasty feelings, because you feel, what can I do?
Yeah.
I need help.
Milton, that was an eye-opener, I think, for people like me to see what was going on, because there had always been those suggestions, allegations, but finally it was seen.
You mean the beating?
Yes.
Yeah, it was seen. It was a capture of the Loch Ness Monster, as I refer to, by a $200 camcorder. So we caught that monster that I had been, not in denial, but oftentimes young men would say, the police beat me, they call me the N-word, and da-da-da-da-da, and I'm saying, what can we prove? Let's just deal with this. But we finally caught the monster, And when the Simi Valley verdict came out after catching the monster and presenting it to a jury of 12, and pretty much an acquittal of those officers, it was, you ain't S. Your life don't mean any more than it did when you were a third of a person or whatever it was. And that's what you still are, boy. And I'm from the South. And when that verdict came out, I remember being in my office and being told the verdict is out and they were acquitted. It was like, boom, a mule. I'm from North Carolina, and I walked behind a lot of mules when I was a kid working on the farm. Felt like I had been kicked in the stomach by a mule. And I expressed it then. If I was 20 years younger, I'd express this feeling. I'd be on the streets tonight. So I understand the mentality of the people that reacted to that verdict.
Yeah. Rodney King was this force that we've talked about, not of his own choosing, but he was a force. He was also a very troubled individual, alcohol and drug addiction. Did you ever talk to him? Did people try to help him? After all, you won a $3 million verdict, and of course you got a nice chunk of that, but Rodney didn't.
Not as much as you say I got, but I did get, I got my agreed part of it.
Okay, all right, but Rodney got a lot of money there, and did you ever talk to him like, Rodney, what are you doing, that sort of thing?
We had a lot of talks, because I realized when I first started representing him, he needs some guidance, he needs some directing, he needs to up his self-esteem, and so we brought him in-house. I've never dealt with a client that much in my life, on a daily basis pretty much. He would be at my office 3 times a week, sometimes 4, because we had a tutor for him to learn how to read, how to write, how to conduct himself. So we talked about his use of drugs and alcohol. And we monitored him closely for the 20-month period we represented him. But, the demons are deep. and we controlled them pretty much during the 20 months we had contact with him. But after that, before that, he's on his own, listening to wrong people. He is who he is. He wasn't ready for the responsibility that we wanted him to accept.
Yeah. Bobby, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I'm sad that Rodney has passed away, but I'm also kind of glad because he did affect change. I mean, we had John Mack and a few others come in on the police department in LA that made some changes, and it's gradually gotten a little bit better. So some changes have been made. I mean, they've been totally made. Can we see an improvement around the country? Yeah, but I think Southern California, it's a little bit better because he was around.
In one of his final interviews, he actually says he would take 2 or 3% of the credit for Barack Obama being elected president. Was that vintage Rodney? And is there something to that?
He says offhanded things sometimes, so I don't know if we can make something out of everything that he says. But I think that probably the world opened up more to African American people with that incident with Rodney King.
Yeah. Your eyes are open now.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your insights.
Thank you.
Rodney King.